And I'm back. So the screen stopped recording because my phone closed, but I'm back now. So last I left off, Zoom or Deku had just shattered All Might's muscle tissue, and this whole time he has the demonic voice on that Zoom uses, so that nobody would recognize him. And so at this time they had to call Principal Nezu for negotiations, since clearly nobody could take him, even All Might couldn't take him. And so they call in Nezu, and Nezu comes in, and Nezu realizes it's a child, even though he has a little bit of muscle because of the sped up metabolism and how much he runs. He still looks like a child. He still has the demeanor of a child, the mindset of a child. Just a very cold child that would not hesitate to harm anyone for the sake of his goal. However, Nezu chats to him, and Nezu finds out that he's actually only 10 years old. And he's like, wow, a 10-year-old beating up All Might. Imagine what he'll be like once he's an adult. And Nezu's like, what if, um, sorry, that was just a podcast that I watched. So Nezu's like, what if we give him a home? He's only 10 years old, and from what he's told me, he's an orphan. And Nezu's like, what if we give you a good family, and in return you grow up with that family, and you allow um, you allow us to recruit you for UA once you're of age. And Deku's like, what's in it for me? And they're like, you get free housing, you don't have to live in this crappy warehouse anymore, and you'll get parents who love you and cook for you and do everything for you. And Deku's like, okay, I'll accept, because even though he doesn't need anyone, he still gets lonely, because there's only so much stuff that you can do by yourself before you need somebody else. And so uh, they track down some people that would be suitable for the boy. They find stable parents that can teach him to become a hero, because at the moment he's kind of an anti-hero. He doesn't hesitate to harm anybody in his way, but he still wants to be a hero, and he still does heroic stuff. So basically, they find Inko and Hasashi, who have been looking for a kid for 10 years, but they haven't found the right one. And Nezu reaches out to them and says, we have a very special kid. He's very powerful, and he has lost his way. He was a he was able to beat a few heroes, but we have subdued him. He has lost his way. He's not a villain or a vigilante. He just used his powers for the wrong reasons. But like we said, he lost his way, and we were wondering if you would be able to take him in and rehabilitate him. And Inko and Hasashi are like, yes, but we have to meet the boy first, gauge what his mental state is right now. And so they go into where they're holding Izuku, which isn't a holding cell or anything. It's UA, but like it's in the Principal Nezu's office, which is where he's sleeping and stuff. And they're holding him there, and Nezu hangs up the phone, and he's like, "Get ready, because tomorrow you have your new possible parents coming to visit." And Izuku is like, "Okay, I will get ready." Because he listens to Nezu, because he realized Nezu is an intelligent person that does not want to hurt him, and Nezu did not try to harm him at first sight like every other hero. And so when the parents come in, he's not rude or anything. He's very polite, but he's just cold towards them. But they see a purity in him that they like, and so they're like, yes, we will take him in because he seems to be a fine boy, and we would enjoy being able to rehabilitate young Izuku. And so he gets adopted by the Midoriyas and he becomes Izuku Midoriya. And so when Izuku Midoriya goes into school, Bakugo did not have Izuku to contain his ego and always aspire to be a hero. So Bakugo is just an arrogant piece of garbage, you know. He hits women and he flaunts his power to everybody until Izuku arrives. And when Izuku arrives, he's cold to everybody. He doesn't like anybody, and it's always gonna be that way. And Bakugo doesn't like that because he thinks that Izuku's better than him, which Izuku doesn't. Izuku knows he's better than Bakugo. Sorry, another notification. But Izuku enters the class. The teacher asks him to introduce himself. Izuku says, "My name is Izuku Midoriya. I am the new student, and I will be in your class today. In your class from now on. Thank you for listening." And he just goes and sits in his seat. And everybody's like, "What about your quirk?" And he's like, "You don't need to know my quirk." And everybody feels like this dark, ominous, cold aura around him. And they don't try to approach him because of that, except for Bakugo. So class ends, and Bakugo goes up to him and asks him, "I don't care what your quirk is, if you're strong or not. Just know that I'm the strongest in the school, and you can't do anything about it." And Izuku's like, "Whatever, I don't give two shits." And Bakugo's like, "Well, you should, nerd." And he tries to explode Izuku, and Izuku just like dodges out of the way like really fast. But they don't see the lightning because he's just moving really fast, not like Mach speed or anything. He just moves really fast and dodges it, and he's like, "Well, I said I don't care." And Bakugo's like, "Whatever, nerd," and just walks away. So throughout the 4 years, it's always like this. It's always Izuku not caring about anything that Bakugo has to say, and Bakugo always trying to prove himself, even though he doesn't have to. And throughout that time, Bakugo always thinks like, what's this nerd's quirk that it's so fast that he can't even hit him. And he thinks it's just like advanced. It's like sped up reflexes or something. And that's what the kids in his school go with. They go with advanced reflexes. And so when it finally comes a day of when he turns 14, and he's like, and in his mind he's like, now I have to go to that cursed school, UA High School. And he's like, if only I didn't agree to that. But if I didn't, I wouldn't have met Miss Inko or Mr. Hisashi. But only he calls them that only in his head. He calls them mom and dad like outside of that seat. So he's like, I wouldn't have met my mom and dad, and because he only likes his mom and dad at the moment, and Nezu. He doesn't mind All Might, but he thinks All Might is too straightforward, and so he's like, no, I have to go to UA. What a drag, like Shikamaru. And so when the teacher comes in, he's like, oh, um, what? It's time that you're going to high school and you have to start talking about what you want to do in the future. And throws the papers up like a dumbass and says, "Who am I kidding? I know you all want to go to the hero course." And Izuku just stays quiet, doing his work like always. That's all he has to do his work, and he can just go home. That's what he sees this as, work. Just do his work in school, go home. That's it. His parents have tried to like get him to be more social, but he doesn't want to. All he's done is like reduce that ominous aura around him, so people approach him, but the people still don't know what he's thinking, and they don't know if he wants to be friends or not, which he doesn't. He doesn't like people right now, and Bakugo is still this massive douchebag that thinks he's the center of the world, and he's like, so two people. It seems Bakugo Akatsuki has signed up to go to UA. And everybody's like, yeah, Bakugo, you can make it, obviously, because because you're so strong and this and that. Bakugo's gets getting his head filled with you're the strongest and that. And then he's like, also Izuku Midoriya has been has put in a recommendation has been put into the recommendation course to go to UA. And Baku was like, what? Who would recommend this loser? And the teacher is like, actually, there's a couple people that recommend him, including All Might, Aizawa, Endeavor, and pretty much all of the top 10 heroes, and the head of UA, Nezu. And Babu was like, what? The nerd gets the recommendation of the head of UA and the top 10 heroes? What has he ever done for them to recommend him? And he's like, I don't know, but it seems young Izuku has denied the recommendation and is doing the normal test. So we have a recommendation in our class, and we have an apply it. And um, Bakugo just gets beyond rage in his eyes, and for the rest of class, he's just really annoyed. But then it's the end of the day, and Bakugo goes up to Izuku and is like, how did a nerd like you get the approval of All Might? And he's like really angry, and you can see his mouth foaming and stuff. And all the rest of the 10 heroes, how? And he's like, Bakugo, I am simply stronger than you are. That is all you get from me. And he says, you nerd, I will. And he doesn't get to finish that sentence because Izuku disappears with a blue stream of lightning. And Bakugo was like, so he finally used his quirk after 4 years, and it's to run away? What a coward. And Bakugo has this idea in his head that Izuku's a coward because he never fought him. And Izuku's going home, and when he's going home, the sludge villain tries to attack him, but he hears the sludge villain, just moves out of the way. And while he's running around the sludge villain, creating this vortex around the sludge villains to contain the sludge, All Might arrives and does one swift punch, knocking out the villain. And he's like, oh, young Izuku, I didn't realize you would be here. Um, and in this time, All Might has developed a respect for Izuku because Izuku only cares about his parents and protecting them. And he doesn't care about the fame of being a hero. He just wants to save and help people. And so All Might considers him a perfect successor for One For All. But Izuku doesn't even know what One For All is because All Might hasn't told him yet. However, this is the first time he's met him in 3 years, because for the first year, All Might was monitoring Izuku to see his progress, and after that 1 year, they realized Izuku has settled into his life nicely and has done nothing wrong, so they could just leave him alone. And so, it's been 3 years since All Might has seen Izuku, and he sees that Izuku has this nice, muscular, toned body that you can see through the shirt. And so he's like, Izuku, young Izuku, you have gotten quite muscular, and you have developed quite a lot, because he's like 6'6" right now. And he's like, you have gotten taller as well. And he's like, hello, it has been a long time since I have seen you. And they're just having this like really formal conversation. It's like formal but casual at the same time, because they know each other. And like I said, he doesn't mind All Might. So he's like, but I really must get going to my house because um, my mom is gonna be waiting. And so when he says that, All Might's like, yes, young Izuku. However, I would like to talk to you tomorrow, if that is okay. And Izuku's like, yes, sure. And in this version, All Might does drop the bottle. He still drops the bottle. And Katsuki still gets caught up. And Izuku's like, what the hell is that? And rushes towards the explosions, right? And he goes like so fast that the speed barrier just breaks. And he tries not to go that fast when he's in cities, so that the glass around him won't break. Only if he goes like Mach 1, which is like pretty much breaking the sound barrier, that the windows break. Over that, like glass doesn't break or anything. It makes no sound. He just runs, and nothing happens. He just runs really fast. But he's going like Mach 1 because he's in a city, He doesn't want because he's in a city and he hasn't like used his power in like over a year because his parents told him to stop using his power outside of like when he's asked to by schools or stuff because it's illegal. And he's like, okay, he can still go up to now he can go up to at least Mach 8, which is, if you don't know, a lot. So he can go to Mach 8, and but he's going Mach 1 because he hasn't used his power in a long time. So he can only go Mach 2 right now. So he goes Mach 1 and arrives there in a split second. And so he's running around the the city and just arrives there in a second. And he sees the sludge villain, and he sees that he has Katsuki Bakugo, which Deku doesn't really care for. So he's like, I'll just let All Might take in the villain again. But he sees like that All Might isn't there. He just sees a crowd of random people. And so he sees the heroes are just not doing anything. So he blitzes in and he circles around the sludge villain, and then he stops and throws lightning at the sludge villain, knocking the sludge villain all over the walls. So the heroes go up to him and they thank him for doing what he did, but they scold him on how reckless that was. And Izuku's like, well, I wouldn't have had to do that if you were doing your jobs correctly. And the heroes get really angry that a kid would tell them that. And they're like, kid, you don't know what you're talking about. We couldn't have done anything. And he's like, well, then you're not real heroes. Heroes save people, even if their life is on the line. That's what it means to be a hero. And if you don't understand that, maybe you shouldn't be in this line of work. And All Might hearing this is like, yes, he's the perfect successor. He has amazing power and the heart of a hero. And so when he's going home, which he walks home, he walks everywhere. He doesn't like to run when it's unnecessary, since his parents drilled into his head that using quirk without a license is bad. But he still runs from time to time with his quirk. But he just like be careful so people doesn't see him. So he's going home walking, and All Might appears out of nowhere, and he's like, "Young man, it was really heroic what you did, um, and I just wanted to ask you a question." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, All Might. What do you want?" And he's like, "Would you like to be my successor?" And Zuko's like, "What do you mean?" And All Might's like, "Well, my power, you see, it can be passed down and enhances any power or quirk, to be exact, that um that the user has." And basically, Izuku's like, "Okay, then then um how would it work if I didn't have a quirk?" Um, and All Might says it would work like it worked for me, enhance your body. And Izuku's like, "Well, I do have a quirk, so that won't work. Wish it did though." And so Izuku actually scrap that. Izuku doesn't have a quirk. He doesn't have the enhancement quirk. So Izuku just has what do you call it? He just has speed force. And he's like, well, good then. Then the thing is gonna enhance my body as well. And All Might's like, no, no, you have a quirk, so we'll enhance your quirk. And Izuku's like, no, it's not a quirk. Like I told you before, it's a certain energy that goes around me and allows me to travel really fast. But it's not a quirk. It's never been a quirk. And All Might is like, well, then what is it? And he's like, well, it's an otherworldly energy that allows me to run super fast and travel in time. And he's like, travel in time? What does that entail? And he's like, you don't want to know, because In this 4 years, Izuku did travel back in time and tried to convince his younger self to not do all those villainous acts, which which was like stealing and stuff. And his younger self didn't agree with him because his younger self thought you're from the future. You have forgotten what it was like to go through this, so you have no room to talk. And because of this interaction, his younger self actually went down a little bit of a darker path and started actually stealing even more and and harming people that got in his way. And so um, he's like, yeah, the future can be a bit fractured if you travel in time, so I will never do it again in my life unless it's absolutely necessary. And All Might is like, I understand that your power has consequences, and I will not question you any further. But he's like, however, I still must ask, do you want my power? And Izuku is like, well, if your power will make my body stronger and not just my power, then yes, I will take it. And All Might's like, there's still a high possibility that it will just enhance your power and not your actual strength like me. And he's like, I'll still take that chance of having brute force and speed. And All Might's like, very well. And he's like, meet me tomorrow at Dagobah Beach. And Izuku goes to Dagobah Beach, after he tells his mom, like, I met with All Might and he wants to train me. And she already knows that he has close ties with All Might. So she's like, okay, have a safe day, honey. And he goes. And the 10 months of training is basically just getting him bulked up. Not bulked up, but like getting him more muscle mass, but lean. And so, by the end of the 10 months of training, he is lean, but like very muscular. Like he's like muscular and a bit bigger than he was, but he's still like super lean and super cut, like on that 6% body fat type thing. And basically, All Might's like super proud that his successor is gonna be Izuku because Izuku is like the most appropriate candidate because Izuku knows how to get things done and he knows what must be done to maintain order. More than Mirio. Mirio is just a goody two shoes, but Izuku knows how to make hard calls. And so when Izuku hears that he has to swallow one of All Might's hairs and let it digest, he's like, ew. He's like, I'll do it, but ew. Is that is one nasty way of passing down the quirk. And All Might is like, it doesn't matter. At least you'll get the power you need to save people. And Izuku's like, well, that is all that matters. And Izuku takes her hand. He swallows it. And an hour later, not an hour later, like 30 minutes later, since he's like his not 30 minutes later, jeez, like 5 minutes later, the hair is fully digested and he gets the one for all. Because remember, his digestive system is like sped up dramatically. So when he gets the one for all, it enhances his body like he thought because Speed Force is a um, whole new power to this world, and it only belongs to Izuku. Izuku's the only one that has Speed Force in this world ever, you know, because Speed Force only deems him worthy, not anybody else. And because he's the perfect vessel, and so Speed Force, um, the one for all doesn't enhance his Speed Force. It only enhances his body. It enhances him so that he can like do shoot style and punch really hard like Izuku in the normal canon. So he has one for all like in normal canon with a much better body that is 6'8" now, and and he also has super speed, which is Speed Force. So it's like a dangerous combination because he can use like 20% off bat, and he can use 20% off bat And basically 20% punches coupled with the super speed faster than Barry Allen in the Flash TV show, you know. And that's like a good combination. He could pretty much take down anybody. He's like overpowered as hell. And so when he um when he goes to UA for the entrance exam, which he's taking publicly because All Might supported him in getting the normal exam because he's like, yes, get that one, take that one because you are my successor. You need to show all the other candidates that you will be the number one hero no matter what. And so Izuku's like, okay, sure, whatever. Because he cares about being a hero, but he doesn't care about the spotlight, you know? And so when he goes in, Bakugo sees him and he's like, what are you doing here, nerd? I told you to stay away from the entrance exam. And he's like, no, Bakugo, you never told me that. You just asked me a bunch of questions. And he goes in and sits down and just listens to the whole speech. Like Ida still turns around and starts and says like, this can't be a mistake of UA because if it is, then I would be very disappointed that a prestigious school like this would make such a mistake. And he turns around and he's like, and you, why are you talking to this boy that is clearly trying to listen to the presentation and cares not for your frivolous acts. And um, Bakugo was like, shut up, Four Eyes, and just turn around and pay attention. And Ida gets like really angry. He's like, stop disturbing students' learning just because of your petty squabbles with this student. And he's like, and you paying no attention to him while he does this and allow him to disturb other students besides you. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Nizuku's like, shut up and sit down. Nobody cares about you. And President Mike was probably about to explain that point if you didn't go on a ramble. And um, Bakugo just sits back down. He doesn't care about Ida at all, and he just keeps staring at Izuku, like letting off these little tiny explosions that just sound like popcorn. And so President Mike explains, and he's like, "Yes, but the 0 pointers are worth nothing, so you should just avoid them. They're like an obstacle for you to avoid in this test." And so in the written exam, the the test scores go the same except for Izuku that gets the top score above Momo, and he's not as smart as Nezu, nowhere near. He's just like university level, you know, like he's like astrophysicist levels of smart. You know what I'm saying? So when they go outside, um, Izuku is like right near the he's like right out of the back because he doesn't care. And he didn't trip this time, so Uraraka didn't have to save him, and they don't even know each other. And Ida's like, "Why are you all the way at the back? Shouldn't you be like at shouldn't you be at the front ready to go?" And he's like, "No, I rather be at the back." And Ida's like, "Suit yourself." And Ida is like, "What a weird guy. I thought that he wanted the spotlight since he was so rude." And so President Mike's like, three, two, one. There's no countdowns in hero work. The villains would have gotten you by now. He's like, go, and people just start rushing off. Anita's realizing that Deku hasn't moved one muscle, and he gives him a head start. Waits for everybody to have at least one robot, and he goes in, and Ida can't even follow him with his eyes. And he's like, "What? Somebody faster than me?" And Ida tries to reciprocal burst to like catch up to Deku, and he does. And then Deku smiles at him while they're running, and Ida's like, "What's so funny? I'm fast. I'm as fast as you." And Deku's like, "You really believe that?" And then he just goes like Mach 8 straight out the back, and just destroys every single robot in that place. And he just appears, and it happens in like 2 seconds, and he just appears in on the top of a building. He's like, "Listen up, everybody, I am the strongest." And by this time that he did this, everybody had all everybody that passed into UA had already passed, so all the normies had no points whatsoever. And he had like 200 points, the same as All Might, because he didn't want to outshine All Might because he doesn't want the spotlight, which he already has. So they're like, oh my god, he got 200. That's the same score as All Might. What's his quirk? And All Might's like, his quirk is super speed and enhance. His quirk is an enhancement quirk. He has super speed and super strength. And they're like, oh my god, really? That's so incredible. He's so fast that I can't even see him. And All Might's like, there's also another aspect to his quirk, which is he's able to throw lightning if he runs fast enough. And they're like, oh my god, that's so amazing. But he leaves out the time travel part, which only him and Nezu know, and Aizawa. And so when when the 2 weeks pass, he gets the thing from All Might, and All Might says, welcome to your Hero Academia. And he goes to UA, finds the big ass door. He's like, what the hell is this? Why would they need a door this big? But whatever. And he just goes in, and immediately Katsuki's like staring at him like, nerd, how did you even get in? And he's like, how did you even get in, much less get the top score? How are you this strong? You've always been such a coward. And I forgot to say that he did save Uraraka. Flashback to when the 0 pointer come out. Um, Uraraka was still trapped under the rubble, and Izuku went through. He phased through the rubble, grabbed Uraraka, and just phased out. And he just ran away and put Uraraka back in the start of the thing. And instead of just throwing lightning at the giant 0 pointer, he did the super step thing that Zoom always does, like super stepped a lightning bolt into the he like super stomped a lightning bolt into the chest of the 0 pointer, and the metal seemed like all melted and stuff because it was like so much force at such high speed, and the lightning that it was just like a lightning bolts like melted into the 0 pointer, and it fried all of the circuits, so the 0 pointer just fell down. And All Might in his head's like, now that's a way to end the test in style. Uh, flash Flashback ended, and Uraka's like, thank you very much for saving me. And um, Aizawa wakes up. When Aizawa wakes up, he sees Deku. He's like, hello, Izuku. How have you been? And Izuku's like, I have been, I have been fine. And you, sir? And basically, they're having like this civilized conversation, and it's really friendly because Aizawa's like another father figure to Izuku, other than um, All Might, Nezu, and Hisashi. So he has like 4 father figures, which are Hisashi, um, All Might, Nezu, and Aizawa. So they're having this civilized conversation, and everybody's like, "How does he know the teacher?" Which everybody does notice that he's the teacher this time because that's the only person he could have been. Stupid people, but he does realize that Aizawa is the teacher this time, and they're like, "How does he know the teacher?" And Aizawa's like, Izuku here is the has been recommended for UA for 4 years, and everybody's like, "What?" And Izuku's like, "I know you didn't just put me in the spotlight, you old geezer." And Aizawa's like, "Well, it's good to be in the spotlight sometimes. You can't be in darkness all the time." And Izuku's like, "You're one to talk." And he's like, "Fair point." And so tells everybody to go get changed and go outside. And everybody's like, "Oh, what about the assembly or whatever?" And he's like, "I said go get changed. Now go get changed." And Izuku just starts heading out, and he's like, "Follow Izuku." And everybody just follows Izuku to the changing rooms, and they change. And when they're in the changing rooms, he realizes that that everybody's staring at him. He's like, why is everybody staring at me? And Kirishima comes up to him and is like, wow, bro, you have such an amazing body, no homo. Like, what's your workout routine? And he's like, well, I do a lot of running, and I do weights. And Kirishima's like, wow, that's such a basic workout, but it gave you these results. And Izuku's like, well, it's partly my quirk as well, because I burn off a lot of calories because I run so much. And Bakugo's like teeing in like his quirk is what, and and Kirishima's like, technically he didn't say his quirk was anything. He just says his quirk helps him with running. And basically they go outside, and in this one, instead of as I was just telling them to go with the ball thrower, he tells everybody what the people's quirks are. And so when Izuku comes there, and he's like, you were the first, and Baku was like, I still can't believe this man got first over me. I should be there. I'm the strongest. And he's like, Izuku's quirk is an enhancement type, which enhances his body and speed greatly, and among other abilities that his quirk has. And so Todoroki's already like, what? It enhances his body, and it enhances his strength and speed. That sounds a lot like All Might, because in this one, Todoroki clocked that All Might is just like a big, buff, fast dude. And he's like, sounds a lot like All Might. Could he be like All Might's son or something? And basically, he's jumping to all these conclusions, and Izuku grabs the ball and just throws it, like at 20%, just throws it, and the thing goes like what do you call it? Thing goes 1,000 meters, so a kilometer. And and everybody's like, "Wow, Izuku, it went so far. You're so good at this, blah blah." And Baku was like, "I'll get more than that nerd," and he throws the ball, and the ball only goes 917 meters, which I think was the no, 907 meters, which I think was the farthest he got on the normal cannon. And everybody gets the same score. He gets first in every single test except for the ball throw, which Uraraka gets infinite. And so this is where I'm gonna end off the video. Thank you for tuning in. By me. Peace with two fingers.